Have you ever been suspicious that you might have a bleeding disorder? My name is Jonathan James, and I'm excited to talk to you a little bit today about a rare bleeding disorder called von Willebrand's disease that has had a lot of challenges through the years and very little education. There's a lot of confusion going on, and as it pertains to this particular type of bleeding disorder. And I want to really talk about how these things are impacting people and then also the lived experience of what the challenges people are experiencing, but also how we're overcoming those challenges and the need for more research and progress in terms of therapies that may be available to people today. Again, my name is Jonathan James with Hope Charities, and it's a real pleasure to be able to come to you today on this pre-event podcast to talk to you a little bit about this upcoming event. It's going to be on Wednesday, July 16th, and I'd love for you to join me and our community live to learn a little bit more about von Willebrand's disease, how to manage that, and also how to improve your overall health outcomes as it associates with this rare bleeding disorder. I keep saying the word rare here because it is unique. It's a very interesting disorder in the sense that it's technically considered to be up to 1% of the United States population that's impacted by this disease, which would make it on paper not rare. But in reality, there's only about 33,000 people total nationwide that have been diagnosed with von Willebrand's disease, which means that it does put it in almost an ultra rare category. So for those who are actually diagnosed, it's probably very rare, but that's the reason why there is such a gap in education, understanding. Even physicians have difficulty sometimes diagnosing this. And so it's important that we have this conversation to talk about what is it, how do you live with it, and also what kind of treatment plans can you partake in, and what do you need to do as a person that's suspicious or had this happen to you or had bleeding episodes couldn't be explained. What do you need to do to ask the right questions to the right physicians so that you can get the care and the treatment that you deserve? So I would like to invite a special guest to join me today to talk about her lived experience, Amanda Herman. It is great to see you today. Thanks so much for joining me for the pre-event podcast.
Hi.
I am excited to talk to you a little bit about your journey. You have had one heck of a journey from being diagnosed and then also just having to go through treatment in various different types of difficult circumstances. But just for the sake of getting started today, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you're impacted by a bleeding disorder?
I'm from Iowa and I have von Willebrand's type 1. I was diagnosed as a teenager when I had severe, heavy menstrual cycles, and my parents took me in to be diagnosed.
Yeah, that's incredible that they were able to get you diagnosed as a teenager, especially with type 1. Some people may or may not know this, but as people are listening to this, just for general knowledge, the average age of diagnosis for people, especially with type 1, can be as typically, even for women, is around age 27. It's really up there in terms of age because it's very difficult to diagnose, right?
Yes.
Well, and in your case, it was really this extended menstrual cycle that really was the impetus to investigate. And kudos to your parents for really, going after it to try to figure it out. Do you remember a time where you started to realize that you had a bleeding disorder and how that made you feel and how that made you impacted you as a teenager?
I didn't really have it set in until I was told that I was given the wrong medicine.
Wow. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. You were on a medication and it wasn't working, right?
Yes, they had given me DDAVP, and it's called Stymate, that is a nasal injection, and they had actually given me the supposed generic version that is only like 0.1% of the name brand, that is for bedwetting. And it wasn't until later in life, about 9 or 10 years ago, that I was put through a DDAVP challenge to see if it would work. And it did not work. It did not raise my levels of von Willebrand factor. So they had to change my medication to Humate P.
And did you find that that worked once they changed it to that?
Yes, it worked very well.
Wow. That's incredible. It's so amazing to think about being on the wrong medication. I mean, maybe it's the, like you said, generic, it's the right name, but it's not the same effectiveness. And then there's been a lot of challenges with accessing that medication. Obviously, I don't think many people can get it anymore, but that had to have been a scary time for you.
Yes.
Wow. And so as you go through your journey, have you had instances where you felt like you needed treatment and it was, difficult to get to physicians or difficult to understand, or did you feel like you had pretty good care through your HTC?
I did. I had great care through my HCC. It was the before the HCC that I didn't have great care. Uh,
Yeah.
they did not know von Willebrand that well. Most of the time when I go to the doctor and I tell them I have von Willebrand, they're like, "What's that?" Or they try to say that they know what it is, and then they're going in the hallway to research it themselves. When you get ones that say they know, you have to look at them like, "Do you really?" And then
So
there you get very rare ones where they're like, "Yeah, I know what it is," and then they go into detail of saying what it is, and then you're in shock, like you finally got uh
you found somebody.
needle in haystack.
Right. Wow. Yeah, and just in your journey, you said that you did, but you also have kids, right, that are
Yeah,
affected as well, right?
I have a son that is 17. He was um at 4, he had severe nosebleeds. You could barely even touch his nose, and it would start. My dad would always roughhouse with him, and every time he'd get a bloody nose, and he said, "No more. I'm not gonna do this. If he's gonna bleed like this, and something's wrong." And I took him to the doctor, and he tried to claim that only girls can get von Willebrand, so boys can't get it. I'm not going to test them. Boys can't get it. And I said, "Are you sure?" He says, "Yeah, I'm the doctor. I know. I'm sure." So we moved about 3, 4 years later, and it was about a year after we moved that he started to get severe bloody noses again. So I took him to the doctor where we had moved, and they're like, "Yeah, that doctor was wrong. They should have tested him. We'll send you to the university and they'll test him there. The testing's better there." And so we went to the HCC at the university, and he did have it, and DDAVP challenge right away, unlike me. And that's when we found out that it worked for him, and Stymate stopped the bloody noses. It worked, and then DDAVP the Stymate got recalled, and so we had to switch to an IV DDAVP. But there is a severe fluid restriction on that, and it makes you thirsty. It really
Mhm.
does. So we switched him to Humate P, and we went through some challenges with that, with the insurance saying, "Well, DDAVP works for him. Why can't he take that?" So the doctor finally pushed it that with the fluid restriction, it's just better, and it um, with the location that we live, it can be administered easier than DDAVP, so it finally went
Mhm.
through.
Wow. It's a shame that you have to become a insurance expert to be able to
Yeah,
defend yourself, but that's essentially what many of us have to do, right? We have to
yeah,
learn how to advocate and learn. And if I'm not mistaken, your son really had a difficulty too at one time with a infusion at home where the home health care nurse couldn't get a vein. Tell me a little
yes.
bit about what did that entail, and what did you have to do to get him the treatment he needed?
The at-home nurse came. He had a bloody nose that lasted over 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, and she could not get a vein. It kept disappearing on her. She tried 4 or 5 times. She said she did not want to poke him anymore. She wanted someone else to try. We tried heating pads. We tried um, drinking a whole bunch of water. I want to say he drank 4 bottles of water. Kept clenching his fists, trying to move around, move his arms. Nothing worked. So we called his doctor's office to see if someone could do it there. They said that they didn't have anyone on staff that could do something like that. We called the ambulance service in town, and they said that unless the ambulance was paged to our home, they could not give him the medication. So then we just headed to the emergency room that's 10 miles away from us and was going to have them do it. The at-home nurse called saying that we were on our way, what was going on, and she called me telling me that they would not do it because the medicine was already mixed. So we ended up having to throw that medicine away, and that is not cheap medicine. That is almost $10,000 medicine. The next day, he ended up having another bloody nose. So then I said, I'm just going to take him to the emergency room right away. I'm not going to deal with that home nurse not being able to poke him and end up having medicine that has to be thrown again. He needs this medicine. We go there, and he's sitting in the bed for close to 45 minutes, still bleeding. He finally stops, and the doctor tells me that, well, now it's stopped. He doesn't need his medicine. I'm thinking, I've argued with you this entire time while he was bleeding to give him his medicine, and you haven't given it to him. And now you're telling me he doesn't need it because he stopped. But he does, because otherwise he's going to have a bloody nose again. And it might not stop as quickly as it did, even though it's not very quickly that he did the first time. But I ended up going in the hallway, calling the university and saying, hey, I'm at the emergency room. They're not listening to me. And he needs his medicine. They're trying to say he doesn't need his medicine. And the lady I was talking to that was the on-call doctor, she says, I don't understand why they're saying this. They should have done it already. And just the stares I got from the nurses and the doctors that were at the station, like, you're really tattling on us. And I thought in my head, yes, I'm tattling on you. You're not doing your job. I'm making sure you're doing your job. And finally, the university called, and the doctor came in, and you could just tell that he wasn't very happy that I had tattled on him. But he finally gave him medicine, but the nurse came in and did it. But he had to open the pamphlet, and he's like, I'm not sure how to mix this. I'm not sure how fast it's supposed to be given. And I said, well, this is how you do it. I tried to walk him through. This is how you do it. I know how to do it. I can do it for you. I can mix it for you. No, I have to mix it myself. And I need something that says on this paper that tells me how to mix it. I didn't know where it said it. I just knew how to do it. And I didn't know where it said how fast you have to push it. I know that with me, if you push it too fast, I get a bad headache that it doesn't go away for anything. And it has to be pushed very slow. Finally, I think he ended up looking it up online or something on how to do it, because he wouldn't take my word for it.
How does that, make you feel as a mom and as a advocate yourself, that you had to really be educated on every aspect of it, essentially having to do their job for them? Really? Yeah. Like, how does that make you feel, and how do you cope with that?
You just have to be your own advocate for yourself and for your child. It sometimes makes you think that you're smarter than the doctor that's been to school for years.
Yeah. Oftentimes they say in rare disease that you're absolutely more of an expert on your disorder than even the people who went to school to administer it at times. I think that that's why we need specialists at HTCs that really focus on bleeding disorders, so they really understand the ins and outs of it. But it there's a sense of injustice, I think, for all of us that makes us feel like it shouldn't be that way. I have a doctor friend of mine that she always says that very thing, like, you should not have to advocate for yourself in such a fierce and forceful way sometimes. But the sad reality is that we really do. And I think that this is one of the reasons why it's so important to be a self-learner if you're diagnosed with a rare bleeding disorder. And I think that this is one of the reasons why we do moments like this, to talk a little bit more about it in conversation, and also get involved in the community and events. And I know you guys have done that. You and your family have been involved for a while. And
Yes.
how has that played a role for you in terms of just helping you feel empowered and connected to be able to do what you need to do to get the treatment you need?
It has helped being with the community that has been through it as well, knowing that we're around people that know what we've been through, have been through it themselves.
Mm.
And if you need someone to talk to, they're right there. It's just more than being at home.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so amazing. I always say that, being the best thing at being diagnosed with a bleeding disorder is the community that comes along with it. And I think so often, you get together with people who've, we always say the most important times is the hallway conversations at these things, because you get to share your own personal journey, and you get a chance to be able to also learn from others. And I've learned so much from so many people walking through this. But when you need something, especially in an on-demand capacity like this, it is something that is really important that you're well versed, and you know where to go for what resources and who to contact if there is a situation. And then also just how to advocate for yourself within insurance. I don't know if you feel this way. I have two girls that are affected as well, and I found it easier sometimes to advocate for my kids as a parent than it is for me for myself. And
It is, yes.
and it's an unfortunate truth that we have to stand up for ourselves in some ways the way that we do. But kudos to you for doing it, and for being a fierce advocate. How is your treatment plan going for you these days? Are you on a better path than you were once upon a time? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel like you're educated enough to handle some of the things for yourself and for your children?
Yes. I Now that I was put on Humate P, it's so much better. I also put myself in an IUD to stop my menstrual cycles, and I wish I would have done it sooner.
Mm.
It is such a relief. Also, I was just recently discussing changing to vWD,
Mm.
as that my factor 8 does not need to be raised, just my von Willebrand factor,
Mhm.
and Humate P raises both. So we're in the process of getting me on the vWD copay assistance.
That's great. That's great. And I know that there's definitely even more discovery going on. I think that there's a huge need for more research to be done in this space in particular. Does that excite you at all to know that there could be additional future treatments that could be improved even down the road?
Yes. Um, Having different ways to treat would be wonderful than to have a nurse come to our home to do transfusions through an
Mhm.
IV. I really wish that the nasal spray would come back for my son,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that'd be so much easier to hear. Just shove this up your nose and you're good, instead of gotta wait till the nurse comes and hope that we get a vein. And
Yeah. It's such a struggle. I know that even within the context of this, you mentioned how your son has it and you have it. There's many bleeding disorders that may appear in the documentation and the past research studies that shows kind of a male dominant disease in the hemophilia space. We're learning that that's not the truth that there's actually many women who are impacted and need treatment as well. But and with von Willebrand, it's actually kind of the opposite. There's this sort of like overarching thought that it's only women, and you kind of face that too with your advocating for your son, right?
Yes. They wanted to say that boys couldn't have it,
Hmm.
and it was very challenging to get him diagnosed.
That's just crazy. And truthfully, even the it's pretty easy to find this information, but by definition, it's roughly 50% female, 50% male. But there's a gross disparity between the two, male and female, in terms of how quickly they're diagnosed and treated, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm so sorry that you've been through so much, and same for your son, but I'm also encouraged and inspired by your unwillingness to give up and your determination to really advocate for you and him both. And I guess that started with your parents, and you've continued to carry that torch on for sure. And I'm really excited about this seminar that we're doing online that people can come to learn more about this on Wednesday, July 16th. It's a live online educational day of different sessions talking about different ways to approach von Willebrand's disease management. But I know you've been involved in some of these over the years. Any advice you would give to anybody as far as how important it is to get involved and self-educate?
It is very important to self-educate yourself on your treatment plan and how to just advocate for yourself on making sure you get that treatment that you need.
Yeah, never give up, right? It's like old
Yes,
Winston
for sure.
Churchill quote,
Yes.
never give up. Yeah. Well, Amanda, you're a great example of somebody who's out there advocating every day, and I'm just inspired by your determination to keep going. So thank you so much for sharing your story today. Thank you so much for all that you've done for your son and also for your own health. And I certainly hope to see you very soon on July 16th. But
See you
thanks
there.
so much again for doing all that you're doing. We're excited to learn more from you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Well, it's so great to have Amanda with me today. And I want to say a big thank you to her for just being so vulnerable to share her experience. Lived experiences with any rare disease or chronic illness is really somewhat more powerful than what the tradition has taught us. And sometimes the lab and the test results and all of the things that are so important are necessary, but there is still far more work that needs to be done, especially with things like von Willebrand's disease. And it's very complex, very difficult to manage. And just like Amanda said, the most important thing is getting to the right doctor who has the right information. Sometimes that takes more than just one opinion. It takes a second opinion, a third opinion. And it's like the old adage, if at first you don't succeed, try again. You got to keep trying. And I hope that you plan to join me and Amanda and all of our friends here at Hope on Wednesday, July 16th, to talk a little bit more about how to do that. We're going to be talking about insurance challenges. We're going to be talking about prophylaxis and preventative treatment therapies. We're going to be talking about some of the new therapies coming out. We're going to be talking about all of the different ways it's so important to approach. There's a lot of information out there, and I think it's important for us to get together and really strengthen our own knowledge and so that we can be provide a better impact for our own lives and for future generations to come based upon what we've learned. So you can go to our website right now and register for this event. It's a free online event, but you do have to register for it. It's at hope-charities.org. And right there on the homepage, you'll see an opportunity to click on that and to register for the event. We're going to have a lot of fun while we're doing it. We're going to be doing gift cards and giveaways and prizes and raffles. And so we love community and we love generosity. And so that's a great way for us to be able to get together and do that and have a lot of fun while we're doing it. So I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to be a great time. And if you have any questions that just you think, man, I wonder about this or wonder about that, you can always email us at events@hope-charities.org to learn more about this event and many others to come. But today, I just want to say a big thank you to Amanda again for joining me for this pre-event podcast. And I'd love to see you on the 16th. So make sure you go and register right now, and we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks so much for joining me. Talk to you later. Bye now.